Welcome to the Clangers pod. This week on Britain's 9th most popular automotive podcast, we'll be dredging up stories about blue lights, red eyes, and low fives. We'll also reveal how a toilet trip led to the Audi TT.
Now, if you're new to the pod, we are three old road testers and serial crap car collectors who whitter on about cars from the late 90s to the early 2000s. The models which are stuck between classics and bangers. They are the Clangers. I'm Mike Askew.
I'm Craig Cheetham.
And I'm Tom Barnard.
But as always, we start the podcast by finding out how many Jaguar X-Types Craig has bought or sold this week.
Well, I hate to disappoint, but this week I haven't bought a single Jaguar X-Type.
Oh.
No. I have bought a car, though, so it could be worse, couldn't it?
Okay.
I have acquired, I've only owned it for about 48 hours as well, a 1988 Fiat Panda 1000 Super, which is a very, very cool thing.
I quite like the look of it.
Tom's nodding.
Yeah, I quite like the look of this one. Yeah. It's very posh as well. It's black.
It's black. It's got cloth interior, beige cloth interior. The 1000 Super, which was as posh as a Panda could get of its time. I believe that over the CL it had fully flush wheel covers, and that's about it, really. Actually, but it had fully flush. Oh, you could open the back windows a little bit as well.
Oh. And how frilly is it?
It's not too bad. It's got a bit of a scabby bit on the bottom of the driver's door, but the car's fairly well known in the sort of crap car community, and it's been passed around through a few people. I bought it from a friend of mine who essentially promised me first dibs on it when he had it earlier this year. He's just acquired an Allegro Vanden Plus, so he's clearly a man of great taste, and there was no room left for the Panda at his house, so it's come to live with me for a bit.
Can I get this straight then? You bought a used car that didn't involve anybody dying at some point. Is this a first for the pod?
I believe that's how it came into the ownership of the owner before last. Actually,
there we go.
There was no.
I knew you'd get it.
Yeah, it wasn't from me on this occasion.
Okay.
Talking of Allegros, Craig, just going off piece just slightly for a moment. I've been watching a program called Trespasses. Which is a very serious thing about the Northern Ireland troubles, which is quite sobering, really. But there's an Allegro, which is kind of a co-star of that program, so you need to watch it. But
I do, don't I? Yeah.
If anybody else has seen that program, does it annoy them as much as it annoyed me that it's obviously got a bit of a list on it? I don't mean like a list of numbers. I mean like the hydrogas needs pumping up on one side, on the other, and they park it on a curb quite a lot for the program, and it looks level, even though it's parked up on the curb. And then when you see it driving down the road, it's got a like 45-degree angle on it, and it annoys me more than it should.
Right or the left?
It is leaning to the right. Unless the driver is very heavy, but she doesn't look very heavy.
So it could just be that car's never had a passenger, and over time, all the compression has been on one side, so the hydrogas has just gone down a little bit on the driver's side.
Yeah, well,
it's better than my friend Tom, who I got the Panda from. His doesn't list to one side, but it also doesn't go backwards. So he's having to be careful where he parks it at the moment.
We could probably fill an entire episode of this about cars used in TV dramas, because they do wind me up more than they should.
You get so upset about it.
I do. There's somebody I know who works in the business, and he was working on is it called Des, one of those programs, and there was a Maestro van in it, and so I pointed out to him the Maestro van wasn't launched until after these murders occurred, and he told me to get a life.
The one that really irks me is Ashes to Ashes, because the Audi A3 in that is quite clearly a later model than was around in the early 80s. And also, that car is a V-Reg in the film, and the Audi Quattro, the very first Audi Quattros in the UK, were W. So, very disappointing on two levels.
You boys need to get out more.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember I watched a program called The Gold, which was great. It was about the Brinks Mat.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
Gold bullets. And I said to Tom, "You're going to love it because all the cars are really cool and old in it." And you was, I think you watched it, and you said, "Well, that was wrong. That was wrong. That wouldn't have been out then." It was just like you were a total joy thief on that one.
Yeah,
So
they
I thought it was
they flagged
really
you as
good and really
very
well
confused in
observed.
that one. I remember that well.
Yeah, and they get the number
Yeah.
plate font wrong all the time.
Oh well, yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm obviously a font nerd, so
Mm.
yes, I would agree with you on that one. But yeah, we need to lighten up.
I suppose we do. There's also the fact that all the cars, they've obviously like got 10 cars for the production, and then they just recycle them. So you see a car that was parked in a completely different scene is then used in another scene parked up. I mean, perhaps only I'd noticed, but that annoys me too.
Incidentally, if you're listening to this and you run a TV production company and you need a fleet of cars from the 1990s, you can find us on Facebook or on Instagram, the Clangers Pod, and I can satisfy your needs. I'm sure I can send a transporter load down. It was a
Talking of
shameless plug, wasn't it?
talking of transporters and getting back on track here a bit, you've sold some cars, Craig.
I have, yeah. I sold 2 cars last week. I sold a Mark 1 Ford Focus,
Okay.
and I also sold 3 cars actually. So I sold the Mark 1 Ford Focus, I sold the Peugeot 405 GLX, and I sold the Fiat Panda, but not of the generation that I've just acquired. So the Panda, very easy. That's gone to a friend of mine who used to own it before me, and he wanted it back. So that's not a particularly interesting story. The other story is fascinating. The 405 and the Focus have gone to live at the place that Tom can't spell, which is the National Motor Museum at Bewley in Hampshire. And they are forming part of an interactive display. I can't really go into much more detail because I believe that they're doing some marketing around it, and it's probably under embargo. But they are going to be part of a special display next year at the Bewley Motor Museum. So if you want to see cars that I have bought in the past and get a feel for the standard of them, then you'll be able to see them at the British Motor Museum. Sorry, the National Motor Museum, not the British Motor Museum. There's a British Motor Museum is Gaydon, National Motor Museum is Bewley.
I can spell the museum and the national part. It's just the Bewley part I can't do. Just one of those words.
Yeah, I had to type algorithm earlier, and I just can't. In my 54 years, I still haven't managed to work out how to type algorithm.
It's manoeuvre for me. All those O's, U's,
Yeah.
and E's. Yeah, no, I just can't do it. I'm hopeless at it. In fact, it's the only time I use AI, I get it to spell manoeuvre for me.
And the top
Okay.
spec Rover 75 I can't spell either.
Oh,
The con gear, yeah.
which is why we always used to book a Mondeo gear in, because we couldn't spell connoisseur. Yeah.
Now, Craig, I think the bloke who came to collect your Focus and your Peugeot 405 came in a very posh covered transporter, which was contracted by Bewley, and he's probably used to picking up something more valuable. Did he look a bit disgusted about having to put your 2 cars in his very nice transporter?
We actually had a good chat for half an hour about how the mid 1990s was Peugeot's peak era, and he was reminiscing about the identical keypad immobilizer that he used to have in his 306. He was a really sound bloke, actually.
Do you remember at the auctions when you had those cars which had the keypad immobilizer? They used to use one of those Chinagraph pencils to write the code on the windscreen. And then it was really difficult to get off. And I bought a Saxo for a friend of mine, and he had it still on his windscreen for about 3 years afterwards because he couldn't work out how to get it off. I thought it's not much of an anti-theft thing. It's written on your windscreen. Anyway, shall we talk about our clangers of the week?
Yeah, we should do, really, because seems that's what we're here to do. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So the cars we'll be chatting inanely about this week have a very shallow family tree because they're the models based on the Volkswagen Golf Mark IV platform, which I think was the PQ34 for nerds of code names, wasn't it? You ready for the list? The first one that was launched. Do you remember which one was first?
First,
it wasn't
actually, because everyone referred to it as the Mark IV Golf platform, didn't they? But it wasn't the Mark IV Golf, was it? The Audi A3, I think, snuck in under the radar before it.
Yeah, 1996. It was the first one was the A3. Then it was the Golf, and then I can't actually remember what the order was, but there was TT, then the Bora, which was of course the booted version of the Golf.
They
Beetle,
were both 98. Off the top of my could be correct me. I'm happy to be corrected, but I think they were both 98. Yeah.
The Beetle, SEAT Leon, and Toledo, because it was the booted version.
Again, 99 for those, I think. And the Beetle was 98 left-hand drive, but like the TT, which was also 98 left-hand drive, it was a couple of years before right-hand drive ones were made. We were quite glad about that with the TT. Not so sure
Octavia?
about the Beetle, but
Is that it?
was it
Those?
Octavia, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah,
Oh, you mentioned
Octavia's the
Octavia.
last one.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah. Can I ask my quiz question now? Because it's actually quite a good time to do it.
You can't wait.
So
Yeah, go on.
so
Say it.
during this period, so from 1996 onwards, this mid-sized platform underpinned every single Volkswagen Group car. It was known as the Volkswagen Golf platform to the motoring media. What was the one car launched in that period of that size by Volkswagen that didn't have the Volkswagen Golf Mark IV platform?
Well, they weren't all on that platform, were they?
Pretty much anything new was, yeah, apart from one car.
Well, the Passat and things were on a different platform, weren't they?
They
They
were.
were on a longitudinal.
We're talking a
platform,
car
weren't
exactly
they?
the same size as a Golf.
Oh, okay. In that period,
Felicia, was that
Volkswagen.
Mm,
was that still around then?
What's my time span again?
I think it was launched in 1999, maybe 2000.
So that's too early for stuff like Yeti,
Yeah.
which wasn't on that, was it?
Don't know.
I'm going to have to put you out of your misery, mate.
Mm.
It was actually a Volkswagen Golf. It was the convertible, because the convertible was built on Volkswagen's behalf by Carman, the coach builder. And
was a
it
generation
was on the
behind,
Mark
wasn't it?
III Golf platform.
Yeah.
And they put the wings and the headlights and bonnet from the Mark IV and the nice indigo blue dashboard lights into the convertible, but it was actually still a Mark III underneath.
That's a good question, actually. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. And it still had the roll hoop, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
Because it was based on the Mark III.
So the one car that wasn't based on the Volkswagen Golf platform was the Volkswagen Golf. After a
That's a
fashion.
good question. I might put that in the next Auto Express quiz. Actually, that's really useful.
Now, first of all, which one of these do you think will have clanger potential? I mean, some of them already are, aren't they? Certainly.
The TT's probably already a modern classic, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we can tick that one off the list. I think certain versions of the Golf are already there. Certainly the things like the R32 and the V6 4Motion 1.8T GTI are quite collectible, aren't they? I think the more basic ones will probably get there in the fullness of time as well.
I remember the Bora being a really lovely thing.
It was nice. Well, it depended on the engine. If you got the 1.6, it was a bit near, but
well, the PR guy at Volkswagen at the time was called Wayne Bruce, who's now head of PR at Bentley, but he had a very particular taste in press cars, and he used to spec them very nicely. And he used to have kind of the 150 horsepower diesel with nice wheels in like a bright green or something. And I just remember driving around in those and thinking, this is a really nice car, and a bit different to a Golf. It was a little bit sort of a level above, I think, the Bora, wasn't it? It had different headlights and things. So you could tell from the front it was different.
they did a V6 and a V5, didn't they?
There were a
It's
lot
the
of
Golf
engines.
as well, but they just in the Bora they made it quite a nice little sports saloon.
Yeah, it was a strange thing, wasn't it? Because the V5, which was a 5-cylinder petrol engine, had exactly the same power output as the 1.8 turbo, which was a
Pretty
4-cylinder.
much, it's 170, wasn't it? 170 something. The 1.8 turbo was 178.
Yeah, which made no sense. But they were very different cars. I think the V5 was meant to be a bit more of a cruiser, wasn't it? And made a lovely noise. But what were they thinking? The other thing about that V5, if you remember, is because it was quite a long engine, the sump was really exposed at the front. It was quite low. So they used to, if you went over a speed bump too quickly or even a humpback bridge, they used to bottom out and crack the sumps, and then all the oil would fall out, which didn't do it any good at all.
It was explained to me by a German that they don't have the speed cushions that we have here. So when you have the hump that's in the middle of the road and you try and position your tyres either side of it so you don't get jolted around, if you're driving a V5 Golf or Bora, then you might not get jolted around unless your sump hits the speed cushion and tears the bottom of your engine off, in which case you probably do feel the bump, I would think.
And the Golf came out just after the A3, and the A3 was like a really high quality car, wasn't it? Everyone went, "Oh, look, a small car with a nice high quality interior." And then the Golf came out with very similar quality, and everyone went, "Well, why would you have the Audi now?" But people still did, of course. But it was a very strange move, wasn't it?
Yeah. To this day, I still love the indigo dashboard lights in them of all Volkswagens of that era. Every other car, you turn the lights on, it was orange or green.
Mm.
It's a lovely soft blue glow that you got inside the interior.
Because it was a strange thing, wasn't it? It was the big group test of that time was the fact that the Golf and the Ford Focus and the Vauxhall Astra all were launched at the same time, and they were very different cars because the Golf was very high quality, and you sat in it and you went, "Oh, this is amazing! This is like premium." And the Focus, it wasn't terrible quality, but it was a very kind of radically styled car, wasn't it? And it didn't have that solid feel, but drove brilliantly. And the Astra was kind of in between the two, wasn't it? It drove nicely, not as well as a Focus, but was still great. And the quality was kind of a little bit German. But it was always the third one, wasn't it? The Focus is the one you want to win the group test. The other one's the one that people would actually buy, and the Astra's mere.
It's a shame, really, for the Mark IV Astra, because it was actually quite a good car. In fact, it was a really good car, very reliable and quite good fun to drive, and decently made. But it always came third in group tests, and it wasn't because there was anything wrong with it. It's just because the other two cars it was always put up against were so bloody good.
Can I drag us back to the platform?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Because I like, this is a hill I'll die. I like the Beetle when it was very fashionable for everybody to knock the Beetle and say it was rubbish and it was a bit too twee. I really liked it. I thought it was a bit of fun. I thought it was a good. And I went on we did a first drive Auto Express. And this is so old. I mean, it was kind of pre-internet. So we found out there was a bloke in London who'd bought a load. He bought 6 in. And from what I could make out, this guy's business was basically bringing shipping containers over from the States that were empty. And he'd just fill them with everything, no matter what, cars, it doesn't matter what else he would put in it. He would try and then bring over and sell. So I think I saw an ad in Loot or Evening Standard or something where the bloke had said 5 new Beetles. And at that point, there were none in the country. So we met him at Chobham, and it was like a pale green one, left-hand drive, obviously, and it still had like US indicators on and all kinds of things. It really hadn't been sorted for the road. I think that's why we had to do it at Chobham. And so I was sitting alongside this bloke, and he was on his mobile, and basically just selling the contents of whatever is in the shipping container. He sold 400 nappies at one point on the phone call. I said, "Oh, is that you sold another car?" And you said, "No, I just got a load of nappies I've just sold." He just didn't care. He had no interest in cars whatsoever, but someone had given him the nod that you'd probably be able to sell these for. I thought he was knocking them out at 25 grand. That was then when it came out. And he sold 3 while we were doing the photo shoot of those cars. He only had 5. Yeah. I mean, he was an entrepreneur. I mean, another 6 months later when right-hand drive was there, he wouldn't have been able to give them away. But yeah. And I quite liked it. I liked the flower vase. I thought it was good. I mean, I don't know what the used values of those are. I don't see many about.
I owned one for a short while, which I took in part exchange, and it was terrible. Terrible car.
Well, they built in Mexico, weren't they?
They were.
Yeah. Was that why? Or they were just terrible?
No, it was terrible. I didn't like the fact that when you were driving it, you're actually sitting, more probably further than halfway down the car. The dashboard.
That was true. Yeah.
You were sitting in the back of it.
Like...
You felt really silly. I also got told off by Sally Traffic on BBC Radio 2 for driving a Beetle. Told you this story?
What?
So she was she used to do her thing for Children in Need every year, where she'd go out in an Eddie Stobart truck with various competition winners. And it coincided with the day that we were doing some photography at Chobham with, I think it was the new Beetle diesel cabriolet that come out, which I actually quite liked because it sounded like an old Beetle when you had the roof down. It was really clattery and loud, and that sort of added to the Beetle experience. And we were doing some photography with it at Chobham, and Sally Traffic and her competition winners were trying to manoeuvre this Volvo truck around at the same time. And we sort of very politely asked them if they could, sort of hang back when we were doing tracking photography. And she was lovely. She was absolutely delightful. She was a really funny and very pleasant lady to talk to, and all the rest of it. And there was something on the radio that evening as I was driving back, and it sort of said, I think it was on the Johnny Walker Drive Time show, and it's "What have you been up to today?" And I said, "I've been annoying Sally Traffic at Longcross Test Track." And Sally goes, "Oh, were you the guy in the red Beetle? Professional driver? I think not."
Really?
So yeah,
That's a
I
bummer,
think she was
isn't it?
joking. She was an absolute darling, and I always liked Sally Traffic, so I'm not going to base or assume for a moment that she was having a proper dig, but maybe she was.
Talking of diesels, do you
Hmm.
remember on that generation of cars, the badge on the back, if it had a red eye on the end, it denoted it sort of said that was a certain
Hmm.
engine output, and if it had a red D and a red eye, that was the next one up. And then I think eventually it wasn't. I don't think it was in this generation. You had all three, so you had the TDI, and that was like
It was in
170
that
horsepower. Or
generation.
something. Was it?
Yeah. So it was 90, 110, 130, and 150 of the 1.9 PD diesel engine. So
Oh,
if the badge was all black, it was a 90 PS. If it was a red eye, it was 110. If it was a red DI, it was 130. And if you got the full um, shooting match, then it was a 150, which was actually, I think, 50 to 70. It was the fastest Golf you could buy.
mm,
And then that was the.
I think the last thing those cars needed was more torque as well,
yeah.
because that front wheel drive, it wasn't really capable of handling much more than 110 horsepower, was it? And they came out quite quick succession, didn't they? From the 110, the 130 and the 150 came out. It felt like they were kind of weeks apart. I'm sure they would have been a little bit longer
I
than that.
suppose
But
we should show some attention as well to the SEAT Leon and the Škoda Octavia, shouldn't we?
Yeah,
We
we
haven't
should
mentioned
do.
that yet.
well, yeah. I mean, the Octavia was, it's hard to imagine now, but this is the car that kind of launched Skoda's renaissance, wasn't
Brilliant
it?
car.
Because if you think they only had Felicia at that point. I think we got it 2 years later than the rest of Europe because there was going to get us an update to the interior. So the Czechs and the Germans got a slightly earlier, shinier version inside, and then we got the one with the proper kind of, sort of slush molded dashboard and everything. And it was, I remember doing the launch of the Octavia and just thinking, you look at the boot figure and you sure it was a typo in the press back because it was it was like 600 liters or something. But just the way that, I mean, it looks a bit pigeon-toed now when you look at them from the side, don't you? Because it was all squeezed onto that platform. I don't think PQ34 could be stretched at all, not like MQB could be. So it was like, it had these great big overhang at the back, didn't it?
And then there was the VRS as well, which was. Do you know why it was called the VRS? You must know this one, Mike.
I do, but you tell the story if
Well,
you want.
it was the sold everywhere else in Europe as the Octavia RS, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But in the UK, Ford complained and said, "Well, we've got RS, and we don't want you comparing your Skoda with our Escort RS Cosworth. Thank you very much." So Skoda decided to flick the V's at Ford, and that's what the V stands for.
Oh, really?
It is, yeah, and it was fortunate because it was already as part of the logo anyway, so it didn't have to be redesigned.
Yep.
That the V was a sort of Skoda sort of tick. It's the Caron at the top of the S of Skoda, so it was yeah, it worked out well. I drove one of those fairly recently actually. I did an event for a client. Well, you're going to guess who the client is because it was a Skoda event on the Isle of Man. And we were based up at the Mountain Cafe, and it was a VRS driving event, so people were driving all the different generations of car. And I drove the Mark 1 back in the evening, back to Douglas from this place that was on the TT course. And unlike you two, I don't drive a lot of really old stuff. So I've forgotten how bad headlights are on 1999, 2000 cars. So I remember I drove this down the hill, down the mountain, not literally down the mountain, but down the mountain roads back into Douglas with these two candles at the front of the car. And I sort of got back and I thought, how are we all still alive? Because that was fine back then. None of us would have criticized that car for its headlights. But I think I've driven up there in something with matrix beam headlights, a new car, which is like daylight. And then coming back down the hill, it was terrifying. A couple of times I had to stop and just look down to make sure I wasn't on side lights. But I'm not, I'm getting no recognition from you two because you drive this stuff all the time. So you're
To
used
be
to
fair,
bad
I drove
headlights.
an MGZT back from the NEC Classic Motor Show on a Sunday evening very recently, and it's the first time I'd driven that car at night, and I came off the A14 to drive through the country lanes near home. I couldn't see where I was going. It's
Oh no,
terrible.
I thought my eyes had failed.
Yeah.
I literally could barely see anything in
We
front
are
of me.
getting to that age, though, Mike, where our eyes are actually failing. So maybe that's what
A
it
bit
is.
stronger.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got my quiz question as well. Do you know how much the first generation Octavia VRS was in the UK?
Ooh. Now, a friend of mine bought one, and I think he paid 14,995 for it.
New.
New.
Tom?
Well, I would have said similar to that, really. Maybe 16,995.
Mr. Cheetham is right. He's bang
Really?
on. Yeah, under 15 grand.
That's really interesting. So my friend Rob, who kept telling everyone he got a really good discount from the dealer, actually didn't. He paid full
Well,
list.
yeah, I think it was 14. I think the figure I have on the original press was 14,999. So he got £4
Oh, he got £4
discount.
off. Yeah, so he got a pint off the Skoda dealer.
So he did get quite
Obviously,
good.
back then you could still get a beer for £4, couldn't you?
Well, they could sell it. They could sell as many as they could make. The UK was a huge success for Octavia VRS. Even the cops bought one. There was a police.
And then at the other end of the scale, it was also obviously not the VRS, but it was the probably Britain's most popular minicab for years and years and years, and then still is in some places.
It was under 10 grand new, the entry level Octavias. Yeah. I mean, that was a long time ago, so everything was cheap. But yeah.
And talking of cars beginning with S, the SEAT Leon, which I thought was, I mean, there were a lot of good cars on that platform, but that was a real cracker, wasn't it?
It was lovely.
It was great. Again, a bit like with the Octavia with Skoda, I think the Leon was the making, wasn't it? The Ibiza and the Leon were the making.
My favourite car off that entire platform was the SEAT Toledo, because I really like a three-box saloon. I've always liked a three-box saloon, and I thought that was a really handsome car. I was a bit gutted that they never did a Cupra version of the Toledo, because that would have been right up my street. I mean, the V5 was available, and a Toledo V5 is actually on my list of cars that I must buy while they're still cheap, if indeed any still exist.
Now,
But the Leon, it was, we had a long term at Auto Express, didn't we? A yellow one that our staff photographer Nathan had.
Yeah, and he Nathan lived in Wales.
Crickhowell, Mid Wales, yes.
And he used to commute to the office in central London, but also to any photo shoots. We were meant to have this car for a year, and as I remember it, there was a call while we were on a photo shoot, and from the SEAT press office, and they said, "Oh, well, you know that the Leon's coming back to us, and the used car guys are just asking what the mileage is, just so they can prepare for it." Now, I can't remember the exact figure, but it must have been like 30,000 miles after
it was around that figure.
And
because it was 300-mile commute, so he was doing at least minimum 900 miles a week in that car.
And there was kind of a silence, and they said 13,000 miles. He said, no, 30,000 miles. And there was a long silence. I think we need to come and get this car. And I've no idea what happened to it. They must have had to leave it in a field somewhere for a couple of years until the mileage averaged out to something more reasonable, but they were a bit shocked, weren't they?
Do you remember as well that Nathan was fiercely proud of his average speed on his trip computer?
Yes.
Yep. He couldn't move the car.
Yep.
If he's in the way on a photo shoot, you say, "I'll just move that." No, don't.
You had to push it because you weren't allowed to affect his average speed.
Which was, I think it was over 60 miles an hour for the lifetime of the car, which was astonishing, wasn't it?
Well, it was, bearing in mind that he did actually drive it into central London occasionally as well. But I think when he did have to come into the office, it used to come at 3 a.m., didn't he? So he didn't affect his average speed too badly.
You would often arrive in the car park. You'd think you were an early bird getting in at like 7 o'clock to Auto Express office, and then like a zombie coming out of a coffin. The seat in the Leon would rise up, and Nathan would be there because he'd got there at like 4 a.m. and decided he was going to get 3 hours sleep before everybody turned up. Yeah, he would just that was partly. I think that partly became the obsession with the average. And these, of course, there's like the days before average speed cameras and that kind of thing, weren't they? Really, so it was that was a legendary period for long termers at Auto Express. Do you remember? And I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but with the art guide, Jason, he had about 30 kids, and he lived in
yeah.
Fleet. And the only long-termer that was kind of suitable for him was we have a Grand Voyager. And I think we'd asked Jeep for or Chrysler, we'd asked them for a diesel, but they said, "So we haven't got any. You're going to have a 3.5 litre V8 instead." So he ran that for about 6 months. And I remember Phil Parker coming out of his office saying, "What's going on? The art guy's claiming for nearly £600 a month in fuel." And it was, I think on a good day, that car did about 15 miles to the gallon, didn't it? And he lived in Fleet, so he had a monster commute as well. Yeah, good old days of fuel cards, I think. Wouldn't get away with that these days.
Yeah, I seem to remember, Mike, that you and I had a who's got the biggest fuel receipt competition.
We did. Yes, I remember. Yeah, we did.
Do you remember what the two winning cars were that were constantly battling?
Was it like something? Was it a Bentley?
No. The two biggest ones were the Range Rover, and
yes,
and then Kim Adams, who was the guy who did the product pages back then, had a long-term multivan VR6,
V6,
which had like 100-litre fuel tank, and I think filling it up at a motorway service station took the fill up over £100, which was
it was £100 then.
Yeah, which was unheard of
That's
in those days, wasn't it?
I did achieve the over £100 fill at once, and that was in an Audi A3 W12.
Yeah, that would do it.
Which I think the £100 probably got it about 15 miles down the road, and it needed filling up again.
The only other story I have about this platform with cars is about the Bora, and do you know the story about the guy in the press office who?
As someone who writes press packs for a living, that this is dangerous territory. But I can say it wasn't me, but I think you should tell the story.
I really hope it's true. The timing works out that there was a guy who just started at the Volkswagen press office and was told to go away and write the Bora press kit. And he realised fairly early on that most of the Bora press kit could just be moved over from the Golf press kit. So he just did we'd imagine he did a find and replace for the word Golf and replaced it with Bora. This was fine until it got to the luggage section, where the copy which he handed in said that you could fit in 3 sets of Bora clubs in the boot. At which stage somebody said, "I know what you've done."
Yeah.
Oops.
Yes. Yeah. There's another story about the Audi TT, which I think I ought to tell, which was how it came into production.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Audi design team had done this concept car as a model. And they thought, well, this is great. But they went to the marketing guys, and the marketing guys went, "No, there's no market for small coupes." So they went, "Well, we think it's really..." No, there's absolutely no market. That's the end of discussion. So, okay. But they knew that the Volkswagen boss, Ferdinand Piech, was coming for a visit to the design centre, and he was going to have to go to a meeting room. And next to the meeting room was the loo. So what they did, they wheeled this concept car, this tiny model of a concept car, out and put it right outside the loo. And then they heard he was coming because somebody had warned them. So they were just standing around outside the head of design with this model. It's like, "Oh, hello, sir. Yes, pleased to see you." He's like, "Oh, yes, good to see you too. Is everything all right?" "Yes, it's fine." And obviously he was like, "Wait a minute. What's this model?"
Yeah.
"No, it's a car we've done. It's the we call it the TT, and it's based on the Golf platform, that platform. So it'd be very easy to do, but the marketing guys aren't interested, which is a real shame because we think it's great." He would build me a prototype. That's how the Audi TT happened.
It's amazing what your bodily functions lead you to in life, really, because were it not for a similar experience, I'd never have ended up working for Auto Express. I've been out for a curry.
This
I
sounds
was
a
at work
dodgy
on a
story.
Friday. I've been out for a curry with a couple of friends on the Thursday night, and I worked at the time for EMAP, which is now Bauer Media up in Peterborough. And I was caught short mid-morning, went to the loo, and somebody had left a copy of the Press Gazette in Trap 2. So when I sat down for a little bit of a read, there were jobs advertised in the back, and there was a motoring writer's job at Auto Express. And I thought, "Oh, that sounds interesting." So I ripped the advert out, took it home with me, and wrote my CV that weekend. And yeah, 5 weeks later, there I was.
I think they use that in recruitment quite a lot as a case study, Craig, for hiring new people, the right kind of people. Is that like the people that, when MI5 used to recruit people from the crossword in the Times or something? It was a similar sort of. So they recruit spies, didn't they, from the crossword? So yeah, maybe that's the same approach for Auto Express. We put it in the dunny. Craig will find it.
I was headhunted then, was I?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Someone put something in my curry.
There you go.
We should probably bring this into land, shouldn't we?
We should. We obviously, the most important pressing thing is to work out what we're going to talk about next, so we can go on Wikipedia and find out.
Any suggestions?
Facts. Well, you've got one.
Well, I have. I was looking around my room and have a picture of a model rather of a Mark I Renault Twingo, which is a car that I dearly love. Is it too niche? Should we widen it out to city cars
that
in
one
general?
in time for Christmas, aren't you? In the hope that Lisa hears it and treats you to a left-hand drive Twingo on eBay, maybe, or
yeah.
I think we could broaden it out, because I think the Twingo was the first of the kind of, it may not have been the first, but it's certainly one of the most popular, the city cars that kind of, when the car industry decided we're not selling enough, we're not making enough different models, filling enough different categories. So, what had been traditionally small cars, so the 5 and the Clio, because the Clio was bigger than the 5, so you needed something to go below it. And then I think all the other manufacturers cottoned on to the fact that actually, no, we can split this market two ways. So I was always fascinated by the Ford Ka. I thought that was a very clever piece of engineering, so I would throw that in.
Let's throw the Fiat Cinquecento and Seicento in there as well, if we're going to talk about little cars like that. And also the what those cars did. So they were the pioneers, and then a few years later we got like the likes of the C1 Igo and 107 that were all the same car, and they were quite cool. And Volkswagen did the Lupo and the Seat Rossa. So I think all of that sector became quite interesting at that time. It was all about who could make the smallest car possible and the most efficient car possible.
Okay, agreed. So city cars next week, led by the Twingo. Okay, that's fantastic. If you've got one of those, please message us and let us know, and we'll make sure we try and include that. I guess we should sign off at this point.
Before you do, if anyone's got any questions they'd like to ask us, please go over to our socials on Instagram or on Facebook. Look for Clangers Podcast and fire away, because we're very keen for a bit of interaction with you guys.
Indeed. Please subscribe and leave a review if you can. It not only helps our egos, but it also helps the algorithm, so we can get the podcast in front of more people. You can also watch this podcast on our YouTube channel. Just search for Clangers Podcast. And on social, you can find us on Instagram at Clangers Pod, and just look up Clangers Podcast on Facebook. Let us know your thoughts and what cars you'd like us to cover next. If you have been listening, thank you very much. We'll see you all next time.
Bye.
Thank you very much.